of this year, so they're relatively new, but they have their volunteer registration form out. They've had two publications in their newsletter about what it is. It's not an advisory committee. It is a hands-on, get your elbows dirty, knees dirty working committee. And when we talked, and Melissa and I and Cory met in October, we talked about not just, I know you, so would you like to be on this committee? We'd like to have an actual registration form, which was suggested, and not just a registration form, but I could pick this up at Village Market and say, okay, great, it's a registration form, but what am I committing to, and what is this for, and what am I going to be asked to do, and how much time is this going to take up? And actually, we were going to put a little blurb on the back of something like this, or a brochure, and say, here's exactly what we're looking at, here's what our plan is for the year, here's where we need help. And on this volunteer form, they do have, what are your special skills? I mean, are you doing accounting, fundraising, legal communication, volunteer management, and so forth and so on. So people can actually tell us what they'd like to volunteer for based on our plan.
Pass that on?
That's great.
Registration form, and there, I can pass it around there, some of their information here. And it looks well, show the voice.
We didn't print it all out because you can.
Right, sure.
And they have any problem for us using some of their work product?
Pardon?
They don't mind us using some of their work product?
They did not,
Their
it's
phones
like
and-
steal shamelessly.
No, yeah, exactly. That's working, let's use it. They had one other thing that I just gave to Nancy tonight, and it's another form that we didn't, might be at the tail end of this, that we haven't really discussed here yet, but it's probably a good idea. It's a financial pledge to the Main
Oh,
Street
yes,
program,
yes.
and it says, I will blah blah provide a one-time monetary gift with the name of the business and whatnot, so that might be another thing to start pondering.
Wow.
Again, more info, but Charlotte Weiss tight, I mean, you're doing everything really, really well.
They have a pretty active Main Street board.
Yeah, the board is active, there's all of this, if you go to their website, it'll take you to, if you just do a Google search, it'll take you to the city of Charlevoix, and then from there, it'll take you to their DDA chamber-like place, so, I mean, they're intermeshing really.
I noticed they have 20 members on their subcommittee or the steering committee.
Yeah, they would have 10 maybe.
We were talking about maybe 10 to 15. The city manager was the one that selected who would be on, and I think on some of that information going around, there's a list of names, and they're actually probably 80% are from businesses, and they maybe have 4 community. My own personal feeling is we have a lot of business involvement already. Maybe we need to have a few more residents. That's just my personal opinion. It's not the
Preacher, teacher, maybe even a kid, a high school kid or something like that.
I would say that, from my time being spent on the Harbor Days Committee for Elk Rapids, which is, a nonprofit organization that hosts just one event for the whole town. We did a kind of meet and greet and open house, and long story short, I think if expenses were kept very low, with donations perhaps from the businesses, like perhaps pizza, as some sort of whatever, or whatever, however we figured it out for food-wise, to have something for people to come and eat. The goal last year when we did it was to try to gain more board members, because the board was falling apart, and even now they're looking at reorganization while I stepped down. But needless to say, I think that in order to foster that, that sort of cohesiveness of getting more people involved, getting them informed, it might not be a bad idea to look at doing some sort of an open house with member,
I think it's a great
DDA
idea.
member
Food always
pieces
makes
of
people
it.
go up.
Do they want to be a board member where they have a voice, or do they just want to be a volunteer? It looks like there's on Facebook, you know, some rallying of volunteerism, which I think is great. We need that, and it's a good thing to try to capture.
One of the things that the last training, Brian and I think Patty Hill attended, we were talking to Laura, can't remember her last name.
Yeah.
And she said that they would be willing to come up here and explain the Main Street program and do a presentation, and so maybe we could have something, and she said time frame wise, like February, I think, is when I was talking to her.
Sure.
But she mentioned she'd be willing to come up here and do that, so maybe we could organize something around that. So
Yeah.
that kind of brings somebody else in to share the vision
Special
of this.
speaker.
Yep.
But for now, our due diligence would be getting forms implemented into our program, so that way they're there legally and everything, ready to go.
Yep.
Right, we meet again on Friday at, is it 10?
Mm-hmm, the 14th.
To do that, to get the forms ready, draft out a
Perfect.
little basic brochure,
The
then
14th.
at the next,
Mhm.
oh, next Friday.
Yeah, next Friday.
To do that, so that when we see you at the next meeting, we'll say, here's our form, here's
Awesome,
our brochure, blah, blah, blah.
awesome.
All right.
Yep.
Is that everything?
Yes, that was,
Awesome, thank you very much.
sure.
Thank you.
We'll backtrack a little bit. Did you get my email, Melissa?
Here's I brought 2 copies, one to pass around and one to just read real quick. There's 3 things on this list, 4 things, pardon me. One is window night, and this will be advertised in the papers, Facebook, whatnot, but the general rundown is that the North Pole is now at the Pelican. Santa is going to arrive at the community tree at 5:30, hit the switch, get on the fire truck and go to the Blue Pelican. Be on the porch.
Heated porch.
On the heated porch, yeah.
So the
it'll be
ladies in
just-
the freezer, but.
Yeah, that was just way too cold. The hay tractor wagon rides are gonna be picking up at Brothers. Picking up the Blue Pelican and dropping off at Brothers. The only volunteers we need at this point are just somebody to like help people get in and out of the wagon, you know, someone to kind of stand there and make sure they're all good to go. So we think we have one, but we're not sure, so if anybody wants to help out that night, that'd be cool.
What day in December is that?
December 3rd, Wednesday night.
I thought it was gonna be Saturday this year.
We took a vote at the chamber meeting. I think the tally final was something like 21 to 7 who voted to put it on Wednesday night this year because it conflicted with event in Bel Air.
Is there
So we're just gonna keep it this way this year and then ideally plan for next year to make the longer Saturday activity.
So it'll still be the 3rd.
It's
Is
still the 3rd.
Is that
yeah,
event
December
going
3rd.
to coincide with the same weekend next year? from
No.
Bel Air?
No, switching it to Saturday, then it did conflict, so we're gonna make sure that it doesn't conflict with anything.
Okay.
Fire trucks rides go from 5:45 to 8, pick up in front of Bill's. The Linuses are having a cookies and bake sale, craft fair, collectibles, local crafters at the Masonic Lodge. The mitten tree is gonna be in front of the pharmacy from 3 to 8. The unwrapped Christmas presents are gonna be here and at Bachman's. Hot chocolate outside Brothers, 5:30 to 8. Congregational church pantry, food, drop off non-perishable foods in front of Adams Madams. And the thing that I don't have on here, but Corbett and I talked, was the music, turning it on a little bit earlier. I think some of the folks might be happy if we had it on, you know, all day. It's Christmas, let's crank it. So, whatever you decide to turn it on, I understand he has a bunch of new DVDs, so you won't have to stand out there and sing to us this year. All right,
I
so
never jingled once.
the next thing, originally this went down where Maggie came to a chamber meeting and said, hey, can you guys give us some money for lights? We went, gee whiz, we don't really have any money for lights, so she's like, okay, we'll ask the DDA for some money, and she sent the letter and then came here, and then Kelly came up with the idea for doing the, getting the money. We just wanna figure out what's going on with it right now, only because do we need to take the money to buy the lights, or, cause we've seen that the village is advertising to send money to there, so we sort of don't know what
Okay.
the status is on that.
Well, I cut my check to Maggie personally. Because again, it's not like we had established some sort of nonprofit and who's all the money gonna go through. Village Market raised $540.
Wow.
So half of that was customer donations, or we actually had somebody from Florida who moved to Florida but is from Central Lake, loved the idea and sent us a $25 check. So needless to say, break 540 in half, I think it's like 270 is what the customers raised. And then we matched. Side doors, 226.
Oh, wow.
The club did 120, and Classic Pizza did $50.
So they exceeded the goal for the,
Yeah.
Well, it's not- we didn't
For
exceed-
750, right?
Well, we were shooting for 750 based on my call to Gilroy's, for that amount of lights. But then he broke down the price, instead of $50 a string, he broke it down to $40.15 a string, totaling $883.30. She's still going to need extension cord and a timer, so she's probably gonna go a little bit over that. To me, it'd be really nice to see some of the other businesses that haven't contributed pitch in even $5 or $10 to help cover that.
let us
I don't
What is
know
our
who-
about, what is your total and what are you short of?
916 is the
Which-
total, well, I'm sorry,
936?
936 is the total. So, I
That
mean,
include cords and extension.
that
cords.
doesn't, that 936 is what we've raised so far. So, I mean,
And how much does
So if
the-
I
the-
threw in
What do we
$64, that'd make an even 1,000,
yeah,
would that help?
I
I would do 64.
okay. Yeah, I would think so, to give her enough leeway, or if it's less than that, maybe it'd be less than 64 or
Well, if
whatever,
we do
but,
64, then you gotta need 1,000 to work with.
yep.
That makes a
But
nice number.
then, yeah,
Okay, I'll
awesome,
do that.
thank you. So, yeah, that, I mean, should cover everything for them.
Cool.
That's
And,
great, that's really
that's
nice how
way-
everybody kinda came together on that one.
Yeah,
It was
it's-
really cool.
Really, you know, it reminds me of how, when we look at other fundraisers, that's an opportunity to look at.
Do we
And that was
have all the
quick,
light
too.
bulbs? Can we
That's
get a
very
list of those names? That'd be pretty kinda cool if we could.
I have all the light bulbs still at the store hanging up, we haven't thrown
But
them
everybody,
away.
do you have all from everybody's place or just your place?
Well, Side Door and us are the only ones that did the matching thing, I don't know if you guys hung up light bulbs or
Yeah,
not.
they were in
They
the
have,
basement.
they
Are
have
they still there?
light
Yeah.
bulbs.
Maybe we
But-
can gather all those up and list all out. That'd be really
Yeah.
cool.
Really nice.
Thank Central Lake and give the big list.
Yep,
Will you grab those?
yep, I'll work with you.
If you can read the names.
Who do I make out
Right,
the
take it out.
check to?
I make it out to Maggie Mall, Maggie,
M,
Maggie, Maul.
M-A-U-L, okay.
And this was just, not trying to be anal by any means, but Maggie said that, you know, I know in Goodwill, like, we'll help hang up the lights, but then we were kind of running that idea by Sam. And he's like, we shouldn't have a civilian up on a bucket in the tree.
Isn't
Up
that covered
here.
by Ralph Hines'
I don't know.
insurance?
I don't know, that's why I'm
though?
asking, so that we're,
That's kind of what I would
I can
think,
tell those guys.
would be
because-
dealing with
Well,
Ralph.
they're on the bank's property,
Yeah,
and
whose tree
Ralph's
is
got
it?
insurance and,
Yeah.
Whose tree is it really? Is it the bank's tree?
yeah,
So as long as the bank gave like Ralph permission to do it,
yeah. I don't
They'd
think
be
there's
covered.
any issues.
Speaking of whose tree is who, oh gosh, now my mind is escaping me, the critter catcher,
Andy Montgomery?
yeah, his wife, Jenny,
Yep, Jenny
Uh,
Montgomery.
contacted me and asked if they could, have the Girl Scouts make, ornaments for the tree. That they went from 8 Girl Scouts to 23 Girl Scouts, just in a short time frame. And they really wanted to do something for the community, so I kind of checked with Maggie and said, you know, I don't wanna speak on behalf of the tree, but I think it's awesome, so yeah. And Maggie was like, yeah, sure, and so we just told him to go ahead and do that, so anyways, I don't think that they're going to be high up, and Jenny knows to like laminate, whatever.
Because the girls are
Maybe you
short.
can coordinate when the lights go on and put the decorations up.
I think we have,
Right,
I think we have
right,
an 8 foot off, AFT, off the finished floor, AFF. Height.
so I don't know if they're doing clay or how they're doing it, but I thought it was
a really
awesome
cool
that the
idea.
Girl
Yeah,
Scouts
right.
wanted to
That's
put
pretty
something
cool.
on the tree and,
Really, is this just our troop here in Central Lake?
yeah,
It's, well, it's,
Wow.
yeah, it's pretty big.
I'm sure it kind of
That
is.
testifies
over
to
in
the fact
Central
that
Lake.
there's not a lot for like.
This community just impresses me every single day.
It's really awesome
More
to
and more, it's just awesome.
see them want to get involved in helping decorate,
Yes.
so then maybe then each year we can get new ornaments, but at least then the girls can walk around and see their ornaments and show them off, and I think it's awesome.
All right, is that everything, Melissa?
Nope, I have two more things. Well, one is just saying that the chamber activity list will be out in January, and then we had that on the agenda. Whoops. I had it on here, but I can go over it real quick now, I guess.
It's under Small Business Saturday, if you
Yeah.
go over now, we can just cross it off.
Yeah, okay. Last year, Joanna really ran the ball on this. Joanna, I don't know if you know, her husband got really sick and had some major, like, quadruple heart stuff, so she sort of fell on the face of it. So we still want to do something, but we need to, it's only like 26 days away, 24 days away, November 29th, the small Saturday thing, so we just sort of brainstormed a quick idea, like maybe to get people to shop here in town that day, suggest maybe each business gives a 10 or 20% discount. We suggest a large grand prize for all the shoppers who leave their names, you know, something really big, really cool, you know, that makes people, you know, not just a gift certificate for, you know, pizza or something like that, but something, whoa, that encourages people to shop here. The discount shopping, and if the DDA decided to participate, you know, jointly on this, the thing that we would ask for would be some help with the large grand prize gift. So we're just throwing that out there. I mean, if the DDA wants to be engaged, then that's super cool. We'll, you know, dual market on Facebook and put it all out there. That's,
The store can do 10% off for that day
Okay.
only. Of course, it excludes sale items, tobacco and alcohol.
okay,
Um,
just like a coupon.
Well, yeah, if we run a coupon in the interim county ad, or however we
Well, we're not
choose
gonna have time to get
advertise
this
it.
in our local paper, because it's gonna happen, the paper will
Right.
come out right about
In
close to the same
in
time.
CLN
But I'm,
news.
no, I'm just saying that it's like your 10% coupon that's in the paper.
Yeah,
Same thing?
sure,
Okay.
yep. And I can make sure that I run a 10% off in the interim county news
Okay, that's
too.
cool.
And
Oh, I
then,
could probably just, if we can get the paper out on time, maybe I can change the date, but that would be a miracle.
it's okay.
Miracle.
Either way, and then we can also do a $50 gift certificate as part of the pool.
Well, that
of-
was the other thought, if we had like a giant gift certificate
Like
package,
a
you know, that's
giant
valued
pool.
at
Yeah,
$500 or something like that. If everybody wants to participate, just throw.
That'd be
What
one
we
to do.
normally do is, we get these out all the time. It's, dinner for two, a night in the, suite.
ooh,
The spooky suite?
Nightmare Before
It
Christmas.
just depends if you want a third person in
where
it.
you get multiple.
You just call for them.
Camera running?
And they run through the both of you.
Yeah.
No, it's it's dinner for two, the suite, breakfast in the morning for two, and, dessert, dinner, dessert,
I want that price.
Yeah.
so it's called the suite package.
Oh,
Cool.
So if you wanna do that, and it's worth about, probably $200. But,
Well,
We would do a
Can
gift
we-
certificate from us, just labor wise, and that's something I
Um,
can give.
there's not that many in the DDA, so I got no problems calling folks to get the gift
Mhm.
certificates or whatever
Mhm.
together.
Well, just do, you got three right there.
How would
You're
we,
done.
how is somebody going to win?
Jars at each store so that it gets people into
Oh,
your,
cool.
and also with that, if we have a name and an email and a phone number, then we're building a database to go with this stuff.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
you've already got three prizes, just stick with it and go for it, go for it. So
Thank
in
you.
other words, if you get $100 worth of their time, right, which is good for an hour or 2 hours, whatever, and $50, and the sweet package.
Right.
And you happen to be in luck if you need coffee cans, I've got like 8 of them now
Ooh,
because
you
of
do. Maybe
the,
the Girl Scouts can help decorate those.
the only
You're
thing
needing
that I
some
don't
kind of
have are
prizes,
tops
right?
Pardon me?
and
You're needing
bottoms.
some kind of prizes or something?
Something, you know, maybe we can have a little gift basket with some fudge in it and a gift
Sure.
certificate
I've
or
got 4
something that people can
candles, those
see.
glass jar candles from the
I'll come and pick
cancer
everything
thing.
up and we'll make
Cool.
a cool,
Paid the
something.
$25-50 for the cancer, then I ended up with a candle, now I got 4 of them sitting in my shop.
okay?
And I keep forgetting to get them to my mom or somebody for a Christmas present, so I'll donate 4 candles.
Excellent.
Awesome.
Oh, so you're re-gifting?
I'm re-gifting. If that works?
That's fine, we'll take it.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll take it.
a good thing. Was there one more thing?
No, that was it. The fourth thing was the chamber activities, but I think that's cool. We'll run with the small business thing, call it a / chamber DDA thing, and
What about next year, looking at maybe instead of doing window night and the 3rd, rolling that back to the Saturday, the small business Saturday, and combining the 2 things and making a bigger splash? I mean,
there's nothing that says we have to do our small business on the same day that the whole, because it varies. It could be a week before, it could be a week after, so
Right.
we could do it maybe the first Saturday in December, so it seems like Christmas.
Well, we don't have
you know,
much
but-
to do anyhow in this town, so I think it's okay to have it on different
I
days.
mean, it is, I mean, it's just one bigger event might draw more people, I don't know, instead of
Well,
small
window
ones.
night, that's a pretty big, it's like.
Yeah, that's more of a family night.
Well, first Saturday is normally a bust weekend anyhow, so it might be good to drive some business that day. After
Oh,
Thanksgiving,
it's just
and the
a thought.
following, it just goes.
Right, no, yeah, well, you know, we have a whole year to figure it out,
Yep.
but we're square for today, right?
Mhm.
All right.
Sounds good. All right, on to the downtown farmers market. Brian Reese is not here. I'm gonna go over what I remember. We actually, Brian and I met with Heidi Cooper from Rocky Top Farms and Don Bridges, and we went over some different areas and different things where we want to have the farmers market next year. We're looking at the space between M88 and, I don't know, headed west on Old State, that first block, that
Between
right on the street.
Brewers and Adams Madams?
Yep, right there, because it's nice and flat and it's open. The biggest hurdle will be, we still need to talk to all the property owners on either side, and the biggest hurdle will be the village getting them to let us shut that down for 3 or 4 hours every weekend. We're looking at doing an evening market.
Both sides of the street, or what are you looking at?
They were gonna run it right on the street. One side, we talked about one side having where vendors can pull their vehicles in, and the bigger vendors and have
On the
stuff.
sidewalk?
No, right on the street. And run
So
right,
where
we're
the
closing on the
parking would
street.
be?
Yep.
Oh, you're gonna close the street?
Close the street right now. Because of how big everything is, they wanna close the street down.
You can do this on M88.
No, not on M88.
No,
On
I-
Old
Close
State.
the
in
street off of
between
M88.
Brewer's office
Okay.
and Adams
Yeah, I see what
Madams.
you're saying.
Yeah, we looked at a couple different options. We looked at that new lot that's sitting down there next to Alden State Bank. We looked at having it on the sidewalks themselves and determined that wasn't really wide enough to do much with. There just wasn't enough room. So the idea right now, and I don't have my notes because I was planning on Brian doing the presentation, but the idea right now is to see if we can shut down that street, have the farmer's market there, have an evening farmer's market on Saturdays, I think from 5 to 8, so like 3 hours. And then at the same time, we'd also like to run music and have somebody doing something over in the open space over there, and going on in the evenings, so.
So that, the newly donated lot, the Alden State Bank, the village donated is not big enough.
No, it's not, well, it's not as easy to pull in vendors. You go to the Wayne City, you wanna go to some of these other ones, where a lot of these vendors are able to pull up with their vehicles right next to their stuff.
Right.
And it just wasn't wide enough when you actually paced it off, there wasn't enough room there. And we also liked the fact that it was downtown better than we liked the fact that it was all the way off to one end of town.
Just pitching an idea, what if it were to be spread out? So you possibly take that spot amongst Brewers, you take the spot by Alden State Bank, and assuming no change is made, you could take that spot in between the party store and the barber shop.
Just spread out a farmer's market, I don't know, we didn't discuss doing anything like
It
that.
would spread out a farmer's market, and then that would be more cohesive to feeding people into walking around the town
Right.
versus going to one centralized spot.
Well, having it in one spot, we looked at where the parking and everything was too, and one of the things we need to do is look at, like for vendors that, the width of the street will allow us to park vehicles down one side of the street, then leave the other side open so people can walk down the middle and be able to go to both sides. So look, we have to still look at parking a little bit, but there's a church parking lot back behind there where we would put the overflow.
Now, what day of the week is it?
What's that?
What day of the week?
Saturday evenings. Wayne City has theirs in the morning, somebody else has one on Friday.
I'll learn how to do it on Friday.
There's one on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, they're all mornings. So we talked about doing an evening market, because nobody's doing this.
You're
Heidi's
talking
been,
about every Saturday doing an evening market.
yeah, and we didn't say every Saturday, but starting, I don't have this information with me, but it was like mid-June through,
Mid-August.
Do you ever think
Yeah,
maybe
beginning of
there's reason?
September.
The only thing I know about evenings is this. At the restaurant, we hardly get anybody at 5 o'clock to 6. People are coming off the lake. If it's a really nice day, we leave the crowd 6:30, 7 o'clock, and then we got 200 and some people. They're not gonna come early. The town is a ghost town during that period of time.
well,
So I think
I
it's a
agree.
bad time.
I agree
Well-
totally, there's a reason nobody does it then.
Yeah.
Maybe a
It's
Friday
because nobody
night
shops
instead of a
then.
Saturday night might be a
Well,
better choice,
and
because
the
the
thought
people
with
will be
that-
rolling into town.
well, that's what we thought, people will still
Well,
travel
people
on
go to
Friday
those
nights.
things, they go in the morning, when they get the fruit, and then in the afternoon, they're going out on the boats and that. The
Right.
evening, they got plans, they're not coming back for that.
Well, one of the things we looked at was Heidi's been doing this for 10 or 15 years, quite a while. And she says, she thinks the evening market would be a great idea, because nobody else is doing it.
How many evening markets has she been to?
There's not any around it.
History, it doesn't exist.
There's a
then.
reason.
Is there, or? I don't know.
Yeah, well, because we're a weekend community. Central Lake is dead during the week, dead on Mondays, Tuesdays. It starts to pick up again around Wednesday. There is nobody in town because when they do go out, they're going out for a reason.
Right.
And are they gonna take and go to that market, put all their stuff in the car where it's really hot, then go to dinner? I don't think so.
I don't know.
Or are they coming here and they're gonna come to town, they're gonna go to Fudgy's and get ice cream?
I would think a Friday night would be better, because you'd be catching people coming into town for the weekend.
Well, forget about
versus
nights,
Saturday.
nobody's going shopping at
Well,
night.
here-
Well,
Nobody's gonna go pick up veggies and tomatoes at 7 o'clock at
No,
night.
they just drove
Dinner's
up.
over.
That's usually the
You
cocktail
know, I've
hour.
already had my lunch, I don't really need it.
Here's the problem with having one in the mornings, we're gonna compete with another farmer's market. Well, that's not necessarily a bad thing, but a lot of the vendors, like for
Are gonna
instance, we
be-
do it Saturday morning, a lot of the vendors are gonna be over in Boyne City. They're
Okay.
gonna go to Boyne City because that's an established market. They're
Here's
not
the
gonna
thing,
go
I
there.
think once and for all, you gotta ask Mar if she's gonna do it again this year. It's a moot point, if she doesn't do it, you'll get all those vendors who would come here if there was a place to come
She
to.
does it on
It's
Sundays.
Sunday,
Yeah, but,
At Brownwood, you mean?
yeah,
yeah,
Oh,
so it'd be almost better to do it on Sunday if
if she's not.
she's not.
gonna do it.
But we gotta find out if she's gonna do it.
I could call her, it's,
Yeah.
Well, one thing I'd like to say is you can try some things, and what fails you learn from, and try other nights, other days, whatever.
right.
You gotta throw a dart at something and try it though.
Well,
Do
that's
like a
good.
market and music one night and see what happens, you know, I have to agree with Tom, I think that people that shop for their food in the morning. But the market might have crafts and soap and
Right.
art or whatever, so that might draw the people
I
that
went
are-
to one
Well,
last
what is
September.
your,
So it depends on what it
And-
is.
We're busy from like 5 to like 7, pretty much every night.
People
Except
shopping
for
after
Sunday.
work.
Yeah, but how busy are you in the morning, Saturday mornings?
Sunday mornings were
Saturday mornings.
Saturday mornings is nothing like a Sunday morning after church.
Which is busy.
Yeah,
Sunday,
Sunday
after
after
church.
church, the Lord never goes.
But I'll tell you that Friday, people are coming into town and they're rolling in from wherever. They're carrying their Costco pretzels and whatever other junk they're bringing. And that, but they want fresh meats for the most part, or fresh vegetables. And their booze and whatever else they didn't bring from home. They want-
What are you getting for fresh
Right, yeah.
vegetables in the beginning of June anyway?
It's, I think we start mid or end of June.
I
Asparagus.
mean, what is,
Well,
asparagus in May, right?
Asparagus.
Late May.
But I could see a
Okay.
Friday night with music and a farmer's
If you
market and
combine it
not
with
shutting
something
down the
else.
streets. You know, if you shut down the streets, you start to really tick people off.
I think
you
shutting
know.
down one block's not gonna be that.
What
big,
happened to us
so-
doing it in the downtown there?
No,
It's not
no.
light enough there. If
Well,
it
now
gets
thing
everybody to
is,
have to-
you know, I gotta go to her defense, because it feels kind of funny for her to do it. That, to herself. It'll block her traffic coming, everybody coming down State Street from Torch Lake and that end.
Sure.
For her, everybody's gonna do a drive around to get to her grocery store.
That's coming
So
from,
I
Torch
think
Lake for
that's-
3 hours. I didn't think it would be too big a deal to shut that down. I didn't.
During my prime time dinner time though, that's
Wow.
big.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
You're,
It-
Okay.
No, and that's, you know, that's something we
Well-
look at as a possibility, and that's kind of why
I
we.
mean, you don't wanna hurt the businesses on anything you do.
But personally though, I mean, outside of my own business, I look at like, spread out that farmer's market and get people actually walking the streets of Central Lake instead of taking them to a concentrated area.
Well, that was the
and walking
original
out the
concept,
roads.
is to bring it into the downtown, when they shop the downtown
Right,
and the
right.
farmer's market.
So they're gonna
Not
walk
to
past
pull on the
Music
side.
in one
Pines will
place,
stay
farmer's
open
market
till
in
nine.
The
another.
idea of pulling it
So
out
You'll
makes
say,
no sense.
oh, you
So-
forgot your phone cord? Cool, man, I can hook you up.
So what's wrong with, there's one area that is Draco side, that next to the bank, because the bank's closed afternoon.
It's not very flat right there, but I see what you're saying, between the bank and Jiraco's, or the,
Yeah, and they might be allowed to go in their parking lot.
you know.
Well, let me
As
just
long as you
say,
clean up afterwards, they might let you run booze all the way around the inside of their parking lot. And then down that one side of the street, the bank side, right?
run booze?
Booth.
Oh, I was like,
I
right,
was- I was-
this is a whole different farmer's market.
It might get really popular.
Well,
That's
it's
some
made
of
from
that.
fresh vegetables, folks.
You're not looking
In fact,
good
some of
stands
there's some
on
of
it
that
either.
there booth.
That there booze.
Doing the shelving, the stands for it.
As much produce as they move, it almost gets in the way. There's nowhere for them to park, they have to walk to wherever their vehicles were parked, bring it out, and if they're moving a lot of product, they're running back and forth to fill it. So from a vendor standpoint, it wasn't a very, I mean, it's a kind of a neat idea, but from a vendor standpoint, it was a lot of running, especially if they're running through town, around parking, around people, to haul baskets and stuff. So that was what was tough about that. Plus, it also ran into some ADA issues because the width of the sidewalks isn't wide enough. By the time you put shelving and enough space to, you know, some of these guys have tents that go over top of it, keep the sun off everything. You run into issues with the handicap accessibility. So that was what kind of shot that down when we looked at that. It wasn't wide, the sidewalks themselves aren't wide enough. They're 10 feet wide, 10 or 12 feet wide, but by the time you get a 10-foot.
Well, if you're doing the evening, the sun's already,
In the summertime, the sun's up till 10 o'clock.
I know, but it starts heading,
Yeah.
it starts tilting over around
I went to a
Fine.
farmer's
On
market
the other
in
side of-
San
on
Luis
the west side of
Obispo
State, Main Street.
in August, and they have their farmer's market year round. Of course, they got warm weather, right? This was downtown. This had, I had a riot. And everything from clam chowder, pizza, hummus, booths, fruit like I'd never seen before. I'm sitting here wolfing down peaches and plums and ice cream vendors. And then the downtown stores, all of a sudden I was like, man, I want a cup of coffee. I went into a coffee shop.
You just said 10 things wrong.
Then on the intersection
Ice
corners,
cream, fudge.
bands were going.
Yep.
I was fully entertained, fully fed.
They're two
I had
different
3
events.
hours of just, I think we got to around 6, left about 9:30. I had a riot.
We talked a lot about that at the, something similar to that at our meeting. Don, talked about turning it kind of into an event, into something happening. And it's only for 3 or 4 hours in the evening, every weekend. But you have music going, you may have demonstrations going, we've got farmer's market, maybe some crafts and some other stuff that wouldn't necessarily, we don't wanna compete with any businesses, but maybe have the businesses that having sales in the evenings and something to kind of draw people into walking around the town. So that was kind of the idea, is to kind of turn it into a weekly event, so that it turns into kind of a focal point for people.
I personally don't like shutting the streets down every week, and I do agree with you that if we have a lot here, if they can access that from the back to bring more produce in without going very far, and same thing next to the bank. They can park their trucks in the back and bring it forward, and it's not a great deal of distance, and you can incorporate maybe more for the gift items in the downtown street, so it doesn't take up that width, and they don't have the tents.
And I might even, you know, who knows on our expansion plans, but I might even have 2 storefronts that I could lease on the weekends to, or whatever, you know, to, who knows?
And I've got a parking lot,
Yeah, and then there's also,
I've got a lot there,
That would be great.
I could,
Honestly, I mean, okay.
but I think it's gonna be a trial and error.
Because you have the
Sure.
chamber there and the Pelican there, I know everybody likes to try to keep it downtown.
that's really where the direction everybody wanted to head, is keep it in town.
Yeah, everyone's keeping town, but you don't have any space to keep it in town. I don't care, I let anybody use the front lawn for any activities. In other words, we try to, on 2 for Tuesday, get the farmers and everybody to come in. Doesn't cost them, I think the chamber's gonna charge them $5 or something, right? And they just park in the grass across, all the way from your place, all the way to across the chamber, so that everybody sees it as they're coming in and out of town. They're going to the Antrim, through to Bel Air and everything else, and then you put up the big banners, you know, on either side of the town, going across the road, and it's right on the main street. And now I'm not saying I'm doing this because it's where the Pelican is, I'm saying I'm doing it because that's the most freestanding land.
But you have live music on Fridays that people walking by, you know, like I'd be happier than picking shit to come down and get fresh tomatoes and then stop over
Yeah,
and
because it
have
doesn't
a
interfere
beer
with,
and
it doesn't
grab a
interfere with
quick
me
burger,
whatsoever,
you
the
know, sit
restaurant.
down, you
But I think we
know.
wanna try to push some of it back towards, that was the idea of having.
Michelle
down
Fox
that.
So the idea is to fill up the town and then overflow into that.
Right, Michelle.
Right, so I like, what I'm saying is, if you got the big fruit and the bigger stuff, let them be on my lawn, okay? If you want all the smaller stuff,
we
put
could
them on the
always
sidewalk in front of the store.
Cross market.
Right, yeah, I think that's a great idea.
We got Michelle Fox's lot
Common
next
sense.
to it.
Yeah, let's take the size of the
It could be a
banner,
whole
put them in
separate
the
meeting.
proper place.
So we don't close this.
Well, it was, we've already had this meeting.
It really
We had
could.
this, farmer's market, we discussed this at length.
Maybe we pass it on to the next meeting, because we've got.
Yes,
we're
let's
talking
So I'm all
about-
for, what I'm saying is, all the little jewelry stands, all the little artsy-fartsy stuff, anything that's got small package, a guy in the trunk with a bunch of little stuff, you put them all along the sidewalks, right? And then you know, facing the stores, right? Because you do have enough space, ADA, at least on Bachman's side of the street, right? And from the, and then just don't start at the bar, started, because nobody cares at the salon to the corner. And in front of Adams, nobody cares, right? And Brothers is not open in the evening, so the bottom line is you could go all the way down that street with all the small stuff and all the big produce, blah, 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 is in front of, on the grass, and they walk the sidewalk all the way down, they can park in the street, because the road is definitely wide enough right there to park and still have pathway back and forth. You can pull up to the grass on the other side of the sidewalk. Just a
Maybe
thought.
we just do like once, you know, I like the Friday idea night, you know, and combining it with another music and market or something like that.
Spread
I
it
think
out.
that would, you know, make it an event to get people here.
But don't be
My
closed
only
off.
deal is that, you know, I don't wanna to take away from local business.
Well, I don't
You know
either.
what I'm
We
saying? So
obviously
gotta
don't.
figure
But we
out
wanna make
how
sure we get, the idea of, when you're a vendor, is to get the most traffic possible. So you're gonna wanna be where the most people are. if you wanna put as many people
Right,
as
I
go by
get
there as
that, but I
possible.
don't want
Well,
some
we're gonna
guy
have
coming and parking in
350
front of
people on
Bachman's and
Friday
buying
night.
from somebody
wanna-
from there and not Bachman's is what I'm saying.
Well, but
right?
if they're walking by Bachman's, they might stop and get something they wouldn't have otherwise saw, that's the idea. If they're parking in front of another business, they're having to walk down in front of all those shops that could be having sales at the same time. And they
Right.
may be producing more business for those businesses. That was kind of the idea when we were sitting and discussing it.
They're fine, and it would attract business, cause guess what? On a Friday night, they're not gonna be at Bachman's, they're not gonna be at Adams Band, because they're already closed. The only business open in the whole
They're
town.
still-
Well, Bachman stays open. at
Yeah,
night,
but those
so-
days they will, so that'll be
Yeah.
fine for them.
Yeah.
The only business to do anything on Friday nights is all the restaurants and fudgies,
Mm-hmm.
okay? So guess what?
And the store,
you-
the grocery store.
In the grocery store. Right, and so what happens is Fudgies gets all that good traffic and people buying ice cream and doing all that kind of stuff. There's still plenty of parking, you didn't take anything away from anybody. In front of me is all the produce guys, and that doesn't hurt anything because I'm not selling produce, right? So they can go in, eat in the restaurant, walk outside, go buy their produce, and walk the street, go down and have an ice cream cone.
Grab their steaks for the weekend.
Yeah,
I
grab
will-
your steaks and pack some fudge.
I will bring that feedback back to the committee and we'll discuss that,
Okay.
because I think that's actually probably a good idea.
Okay, got
And the only other thing I want to add to any of that, and we'll move on, is we're gonna start looking for a volunteer to help run the day-to-day operation of the farmer's market. Somebody that's willing to, help vendors, help find vendors, help get them set up, help lay things out.
They can come to our meet and greet.
I think that would be a great
Mm-hmm,
chamber thing.
that would be it.
Participation.
Well, we're gonna start looking for volunteers, and that was one of the things. We had somebody lined up, and she dropped out rather unexpectedly.
I just wanna make sure that the camera says, cause.
Oh, well, one of the
she
things,
hated me.
one of the things on there is we do wanna coordinate with the chamber, and as a committee, we were gonna discuss talking to the chamber.
Okay,
All right, on to the next thing.
old business.
Well, there is no old business unless somebody has it.
I did,
Downtown development plan.
That's me, some bills.
old business. Anything happen with the motorcycle, ride in October?
I think so. I think he had 50 people, 40 people.
Yes.
Stop at the Pelican?
Yeah, they went to the side door and, those might produce.
Yeah, and they're just
Real
up there
nice,
doing
real
a
nice
color
group of
tour.
people.
So does it look like something that might develop for next year or something?
Sure.
I
think
talked
it's
to
like-
We
Marty or
put them
Mark?
through the side
Mark?
door. They should do it earlier, because I think it was a little bit too late because of the weather.
Yeah, they're trying to hit the color, the right time of the year for color, which is tough. It varies every year.
Okay.
So
And,
I don't know. From what I heard, it was successful. Mark said it went well.
Okay,
They had 40 people.
I-
A lot of people thought the riding around here was great.
okay, cool.
That was beautiful, they said.
All right, on to new business, the downtown development TIF plan. October 23rd, we had the public hearing. Chris, myself, Brian, Nancy, Melissa, Ken from the DDA were all there. If I missed somebody, I can't think of who it would have been. I think that was everybody. There was 6 of us there from the DDA, which I thought was pretty good. The public hearing went well. It was very positive. I thought it was very good. There were a few things from residents that were of a minor concern. It was concern to them, and it was actually not a big deal in the terms of what we had going. Someone asked if we had to relocate somebody, and that was,
I think what happened is they were unclear about the checks and balances of the DDA and the village and what their rights were and the amount of money that cut to the chase.
yeah.
The amount of money over a long period of time came out to a lot less than what they thought per year. How much that would be worth over the period of time with inflation,
Or deflation.
or deflation. And the third overall thing, to cut to the chase for all this stuff, was the concern that it would take away from other areas they thought were more important if the tax base was reduced. And because this is an ever-changing thing, and because it is a budget, and it still has to be approved every time we spend something, I think the majority of them figured out that it was a good thing, and not necessarily, we weren't just arbitrarily taking $1 million and going and spending on stuff
Going to the
without
bank.
anybody's knowledge and,
Right.
and without participation of the community and its citizens, and then anybody controlling it individually, and that it was a group effort by a lot of their fellow citizens. So I think most of that was very good.
The lady was sitting next to me voiced about the fact that we're the DDA, we're an authority, and we had the authority to do some of these things without hesitation, reservation, purpose of evasion, the whole.
Yeah.
Well, I think once they generate their own money, they do have that authority. As long as we're getting money from the village, they have the authority.
Well, part of it is, anything we do has to have a budget. That budget has to be approved every year.
Right.
And so if there's something in the budget the village doesn't like, they say, well, we're not gonna approve that budget. And then we're not able to do that until we make the appropriate amendments. So there's checks and balances to it all. It isn't just like, oh, well, hey, we're gonna go spend, $30,000 on ice skates.
Yeah,
That's not gonna happen.
And I think the majority of the people that were there were just curious of, they reacted to rumor and a dollar amount without knowing precisely what the group does. So they were there for information, and I think we presented it well as far as explaining.
So what are the bullet points of things that we need to address in the TIF plan?
Honestly, from citizens, it goes to, there's two main concerns: relocation and historical preservation. That was the two. The main two from people. There's, and then the taxing authorities, both the Antrim County, they're usually able to opt out. They're not able to opt out because our DDA was established prior to 1993, which was 1992 when it was actually established. So we're gonna be able to collect the taxes from the county millages as well. The township had some concerns, and just as, in terms of boundaries and the millages, and honestly, it was just, everybody's worried about the pot of money. That's the bullet point.
Sure.
Everybody's worried about that pot of money.
So to address relocation,
Well, it's already addressed in the plan.
And they want to know geographically what made up the downtown. So
which
basically,
is stated in the
yeah,
plan.
Yes.
yeah, but they didn't read
It
the
was just a
plan.
question, and
Yeah.
it was a question and answer for the most part, and I think it went really well. It was very positive. I think, Nancy, you thought it was very positive.
Very positive.
Yeah, and nobody asked any questions, and then we clarified some things prior to them asking it, because we had already heard throughout the community of all the questions they were gonna ask.
Mhm.
So we headed those off, quite honestly, before they asked them, so there was no misunderstanding from the very beginning of the meeting.
I heard from many, many people that was one of the best village/DDA meetings that they had been to, or
Because
heard
people
of.
were respected when they asked questions.
Yeah, it was very nice.
Yeah.
It was very nice, and the comment afterwards was very, very positive. I was very
So-
happy with it.
So relocation is stated in our plan that there is no intention of relocating anybody under any circumstance.
Yeah, there's no intention, it's under, there's its own heading, and I don't have the plan sitting right in front of me, but it says, there are no plans to relocate. There's approximately 50 people that reside within the DDA district, and there's no plans to relocate anybody.
Okay,
That's what it says.
And their only other main concern was,
Historic preservation.
historic preservation.
historic preservation. The third thing was taxes for emergency service and such, where if there was a reason to increase budgets, would it be taken away from our emergency services and such? And the thing is everybody would be affected with it equally if there was not enough money to make a contribution. Everybody would have to share, and it was such a minimum amount that it probably really wouldn't affect, anybody. And still, we could opt out that particular percentage, which might be a very small percentage. We as a DDA could opt out and say, okay, we won't take that money to hurt the emergency services, right? So this year we'd only take, instead of 30,000, we'd take like 27, you know, and let the 3,000 apply towards emergency services, not to take away from any of that. Because you do have your priorities. When it's all said and done, when you start running out of money, where do you cut? And you're gonna cut anything that's not a necessity.
Well, they've been able to run, you know, this is not gonna be, play devil's advocate for a second. So you're operating at 2013 levels, that just means they'll continue to operate at 2013 levels unless, you know, they're a taxing authority as well. They can increase their millage rate. There's nothing to say they can't do that. We're not taking anything that's a for sure thing as far as an increase in the taxable value. And it's only for this area inside the DDA district, where most of these taxing authorities are for larger areas. They're not just this little
Right.
circle that we're in. So to play devil's advocate for a second, that's, I don't want anybody to lose out on anything either, but the law was designed this way too. So that you have, you know, there's other options too, so.
And the same thing, it still has to be voted upon, and there's still checks and balances. Every time we do something, there's always checks and balances. So, I like to make a motion that we accept it and present it the way it is.
I'll second that motion.
What was the motion? Can you restate it?
What do you got?
I'm not gonna support that because I think this is something that the new president should look at and be aware of and have some knowledge on, and I just don't think that he's got that.
Of course he doesn't, because he still has to vote on it. He can reject it, send it back to us.
Right, well, I mean, if I knew that this was in Larry's lap and he looked at it and saw it and.
No, what I'm saying is, it still ends up in Larry's lap. Are you trying to say that before Larry takes office, this will be voted on and passed?
I don't know, that's what, I don't know. When, if we approve this as it is, I mean, are we gonna add some verbiage in there about historic preservation? Are we gonna clarify more about the relocating
I'm all for
people?
saying, when is the new board take?
And there's some,
December.
you know, there's
So what?
spreadsheet needs correcting,
I don't know,
so.
December.
Okay,
For the December
what I would
meeting.
say is to give them an opportunity, is you give them the information prior to them taking office. And we vote on it when the new board takes their,
I would agree with that.
Well, I have a question.
now can we agree?
Well, hold on, I have a question about
Yeah.
that. Melissa's on this DDA board, and then she'll also get to vote on it again as part of the village council.
Well, Cruiser was on this too.
She
Well,
still
but he
has
has to,
yes or
by
no
law.
vote.
He has to by law. And so I don't know, I'm asking, because Eckert's gonna be on this board as well. So I don't know, I'm asking, is there an issue there? I'm not saying that it's
Brucey's
good or
on the
bad.
board now,
Well, I'm
Right,
saying,
he has to by law.
right, so will Eckhart, but I would
So that's-
think
Eckert's
our
just gonna replace
visionary.
Cruzy.
Huh?
They said Eckert's just replacing Cruzy, so that'll be his, you know, vote.
I mean,
Does anybody know the bylaws if you're allowed to? Is it,
Well, I don't think it's in our bylaws.
I
It
would
isn't,
recommend.
but I'm not saying anything bad, I just don't wanna get, if there's a conflict of interest or
Well,
or anything, I don't want
Joe
this
should look into it,
Yeah.
because there may be
My
on one
personal
side or the
Well,
other.
listen, I'm sitting on this board today as the chamber DDA type member, but in 2 months from now,
You'll be
I'll be
But-
council.
But you're, but then you'd be a member of the governing board of this board. You know, it's the chamber here, a separate board over here, but the village council is our governing
No,
board.
she's on
When
the
Kenny
DDA.
sits on the planning commission, he doesn't abstain when something comes before the village
When
council.
who?
I don't
When
think,
Cruzy?
yeah.
Well, but by
I mean,
law,
as-
he has to be on all those boards. By law, he's the president has to be on them all.
Well,
That's,
let's figure it out.
that's why I was just asking, I don't want there to be an issue that's gonna drag it on further.
Well, I mean, the
That's why
worst
was-
case scenario is I just abstain.
My personal preference is that whatever we choose to do to put in front of the council goes in front of the new council. Because the new council is the one that's going to have to continue to deal with our budgeting needs and so on and so forth, because we are not a self-sustaining entity at this point.
okay.
I understand that.
So the,
The motion on the floor is to, you
what I'm
motion.
saying is, the motion on the, let me change my motion.
The new motion on the floor.
I'm
No,
doing
no,
it.
no, okay. Because it was discussed, all right. The motion is to present the plan as is, but to present it to the new board at their first meeting, give them the information prior so they can review it. And number three, there's a conflict of interest. Melissa will sustain from voting as the village council if there is an issue.
And maybe we could add that, because there were some typos in the.
Well, with corrections.
With corrections, yeah, so that whatever goes before them, it's all done.
Polished, yeah.
Yeah.
So we're agreeing that we can send this forward with those few edits. We'll probably all look at it again at the next meeting, I would think.
I'll edit it and send it out before then.
Yeah, and that way you're not here's the thing, the best thing about this whole thing is this. Because of the conflicts of the old village council, the election, all that kind of stuff, there's transparency because we are presenting it to the new board.
So in theory, it would go to them.
It's not a
about
lame duck
December.
thing, it's not a lame duck thing. What it is it's also, most boards hate to commit and feel leery of doing so, to commit to something when a new board's coming in, and I think it's only fair. And that's why I say you present to the new one. And I don't think there's gonna be any issues, quite honestly, because I haven't heard anybody that thinks it's a bad idea. So,
And I would.
that's what I'm saying, and I'm sticking to it.
But
And can I get a second?
I would just
Well,
like to
Cory already
say,
supported you, so I
Yeah.
seconded you, so.
I
we're
would
good.
just like to say that I know that, you know, the gumption of trying to get this done and pass through has also been in light of our future development and expansions. And I still sit here today and tell you, there's nothing that's been put in front of the planning commission, which has to go to the village council, which then has to go to a public hearing and everything else.
Sure.
So nothing has been done, so there's no sense of urgency in trying to like get it through today.
We need to vote on the motion that's on.
The only urgency is to quit discussing it.
Yep.
I'm so tired of talking about this thing, I just soon pass it, we originally talked about pass the thing and then we'll correct it, and now we're back to saying,
Well, we've got
maybe
the
we
corrections made, so the
Yeah,
next thing that
corrections
comes through
made.
is that it should go before the board
We
or
haven't
the
changed
council
anything,
in
we're just saying
December.
it's not right
Be
for
done.
the.
Right,
No.
well, I know you're talking about just the spelling and that type of stuff.
The only thing that I would
Motion
hesitantly like to
starting
address is
get
the
on
historic
track.
preservation. And that continues to come up being
Steam's a building.
an item of concern. And we don't have it anywhere in our TIF plan, and we left everything vague.
So you want to make sure we have it, or do you want to leave it vague? 'Cause I'm trying to get where you're coming from direction-wise on this.
I want to address it because we haven't addressed it yet.
What is it that we're
And
addressing?
Historic
personally,
preservation.
Within the TIF plan.
you know, as a business owner, unless I see some sort of community, some sort of support in preserving that history, I find it a moot point to have in our plan. Because unless you, as a community, are able to create funds to preserve history, you cannot place that burden on business. That's not fair.
I don't think there's anything in there that says that necessarily. You know, we could put language in there that says we encourage historic preservation, but it isn't necessarily that you must, and what constitutes something worth preserving? I mean, you know,
Right.
historic latrines are not something that we want to preserve. You know, the ones that are 100 years old, it's just not, doesn't make sense.
Right.
So-
Granddaddy.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, well,
But
but-
in order to address that ongoing, continuing concern, I think that it's not gonna die easily, that I would agree with you, Cory, in your statement that we would encourage business owners to
Well-
preserve historical preservation, and if there's some way we can act as a liaison,
Rob Tyler,
a resource.
You kind of run
finding
the opposite way
grants.
of the Main Street program, but as far as I'm concerned, so what?
Right,
You know what I mean? I mean, we as a village have to determine our future and what direction we're going. And I agree totally with you.
yeah.
If you wanna tell me how to do it, show me how to get the funds.
Right.
Right.
You know, and if you're not gonna do that, then you really need to step back.
Well,
And I will share with you all that I just got back from a week in Vermont. And what an amazing trip it was, in talking to some people from a local vineyard. I'll make a long story short. Vermont has some very strict state laws, pretty much not making it possible for corporations to come in, large corporations. There's 4 McDonald's in the entire state of Vermont.
oh, wow.
One of them, the 5th one, was in business for a year and a half, shut down, and a mom and pop moved in, and they're booming like crazy. So it had nothing to do with traffic flow. It had everything to do with that preservation of supporting the local economy. And while we don't have that jurisdiction within our ability in the small town, you know, that's one of the very few things I've posted on the soapbox is, hey guys, if you really want to create this supporting local, then we really need to look at things that will provide that. There was an organic grocery store that was half of the size of our party store. There was, the whole grocery store was the size of the old party store that we owned. That was it in town, next to your mobile gas station. And then you had a liquor store next door. But it was all about small communities, small organizations, supporting each other, not going to the Kohl's and the Myers and so on and so forth. And that's how they survive and thrive, and it was beautiful, and it was awesome to walk in. It gave me vision for what I could do with the party store in the event that, you know, we don't have the funds to expand and things don't make sense. That's all great and wonderful, but as a business owner, I don't want to be tied down to the fact that I'm in a DDA district, and now all of a sudden I've got all this historical rules that I have to follow by because I'm within that district. That's not going to
I
make
don't
me
think
want
that any of
to.
that says any of that necessarily, but I
Right.
do think in order to address the concerns, we can put in language that just somewhere along the lines, and Rob Tyler actually pointed it out, he said page 3, item 4, enhance the appearance of downtown district, we could put in historic preservation.
Mhm.
So, I mean, we could put in there, and we can amend the motion to add that, that we encourage or that we support historic preservation along those lines, whatever the wording is that makes sense in the plan.
Yep,
And not necessarily tie that down to you have to.
right.
Because then all of a sudden that gets into what's historic, what's not, it turns into a whole kettle of worms. So we can encourage historic preservation. And I
Yeah.
think we already kind of do that inherently by saying, number 1 item, we're gonna use the Main Street rules. We're gonna go by Main Street stuff. We inherently do that because that's what they're about.
Well, let's vote on the first one,
Okay.
and everybody should probably vote no.
Second.
No.
I would just
The
like,
very first one, then we say it all over again,
Alright.
then we add, right, got
So
me?
what's the
Yeah.
motion?
The motion right now on the floor.
Right, which everybody's gonna turn down.
can I just say something really quick?
In other words, everybody's gotta turn it down because we're now modifying it.
Right.
Yes,
That
You can
town
rescind
that I
the
was
motion,
in
right?
had the
I second it.
census
Restart.
population.
We still have to vote on it.
You still have to vote on it.
Right.
Anytime you second a motion, that's actually the permission to talk about it.
Right,
So-
so we're at the discussion
So we're gonna,
stage.
That town that I was in had a
Alright,
census
so,
population of 880.
Can we vote on rescinding it?
880?
No, you can't
No,
rescind.
you gotta rescind this.
No different than
alright,
Central.
everybody vote no and
Call
go.
the vote.
Okay, everybody,
Go.
everybody, all yeas? All noes?
No.
No.
Okay.
So that motion didn't pass.
Alright, I make a motion to do exactly like we said the first time.
So accept the plan,
Accept the plan with the modification, what section, sir?
with add the section, I just had it in the back of it.
Page
Page
3,
3, item
4.
4, with, accept the plan modifying section, page 3,
Those exact words, that's pretty good wording there.
page 3, item 4, to include the phrase,
Said enhance appearance of downtown district and support historic preservation.
encourage.
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 And the same thing associated, spelling errors
And fix any spelling or
Oh,
typographical.
thank you.
And the
without changing the,
spreadsheet numbers at the end there.
without
So-
changing the intent.
All right, and I'll second that.
Okay. Now, all in favor?
Graphical errors
Aye.
and spreadsheet.
I'd like to do a
We're
roll
not gonna
call.
turn this one
I
down?
think he has to do,
We're good.
Yeah, I'd like to do a roll call vote on this, so,
I gotta
if
figure.
you wanna read off the list of names, I know you're filling in tonight.
Nancy Bridges, yes. Cory,
Yes.
Lisa's not
I
here.
just have one question. With the idea that this is
Like-
going before the board at the next,
Yeah, that's part of it.
okay,
it's already in there.
that's assumed.
We've already said that, we're gonna bring that to the new board, but we're gonna have it ready,
Finish the roll
I
call
was
vote,
in the
please.
first
we're gonna
discussion.
have,
We're
we're
past
presenting
this
all the
point.
new board.
Okay,
members.
let's go.
Lisa,
She votes yes.
Tom, Kenyon, Chrissy,
She votes yes? I don't know.
Miss
We're gonna
Corbett.
talk
Yes.
about that later.
Okay. Excuse, Weiss,
Yes.
Young,
Yep.
Zelenak.
Yes.
Okay.
You know, we actually have a Y and a Z in our board.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool, isn't it?
All right, are there any other comments regarding the downtown development plan? Then we're gonna move on.
Move on.
Item C was board size, I amended the agenda.
What was it?
Board size, the size of our board.
Oh.
We have 10 people currently on this board. We have a maximum of 12. Looking at where we're at right now, does it make sense to reduce the board size? Does it make sense to keep it where we're at and continue to look for people? By law, we have to have a minimum of 9, maximum of 12. Larger board, there's more people, but then it's harder necessarily to get a whole lot done during some of our meetings when they turn into 2-3 hour meetings. So I was curious if that's something we'd like to address or not.
I have a nomination
Where are they?
For an
for an empty
seat.
seat. Amy Drake has expressed interest, and while she may be moving out of town, she's not out of town right now. And if she is interested, I think that we need to bring her residential viewpoint, who's also a small business owner in town.
What do you mean she may be moving out of town?
She's looking at moving out of town, but she expressed interest.
I mean, is she looking, 10
Uh,
years
still
when she
staying in
retired,
Central
Lake
or
and-
next week?
Still in Central Lake, but she was looking at,
Not in the
probably
village, I think,
by
probably.
June of next year or so that she wouldn't be in the village, so therefore she wouldn't be whatever, like qualified, but,
Who is this?
Amy
Well, it's
Drake.
not a requirement that you live in the village to be. in
No,
the
but a
village.
majority of the board has to have an interest in the downtown, so we'd have to look at that by the state
But
of Michigan.
currently, she has an interest in the downtown, because she's a
I would
property
say,
owner.
Not in the downtown area, she's outside of it.
I would say that what happens is, we had a hard enough time to get this with 10. I think you leave it the way it is until all this is over with, and then we table this until,
Most boards are not up to max.
yeah.
Most, there's a few open, and when the right person comes, we all vote and we add them. But once you're full, the right person comes, they're out of luck until somebody's off the board. I personally like the idea of having 1, 2
I think it's
spots,
the way it
3
is.
maybe at the max,
Mhm.
that left open.
Yeah.
And some of us are, Tom is out on occasion, and, I think the larger group is.
Yeah, I think that what happens is.
As long as we have a quorum, we've always had a quorum every single time, even though we've had this huge board, so.
In 27 days, I'll be retired.
No, retired
Time we
people.
see you?
Yeah.
Oh, don't
Wow.
say that.
I've been rubbing now for 40 years.
Dude,
Yeah.
let's just, I read that Reader's Digest.
I called last company 30 days ago and said, you got 30 days, you're not a
Right
free
now,
man.
Where
Is,
at?
is there anything in place of finding
This
a
would
replacement
put
for
you-
yourself? because
There's a flex
that's
on
a
the
concern
average.
of mine after leaving the Harbor Days,
I've gone
board.
26 summers.
We haven't actively looked for anybody
23
too,
for the
too
last
awful
4 or
hard, I
5
don't
years.
think,
Well,
as
we're
far
gonna
as
have
replacements.
I've been
Ken's
slowly
spot,
moving
and then
up.
we've already got an open one, so we'll have 2 spots.
Ken spot.
Oh, well, that gets filled by
Michelle?
Larry.
Yeah, I'd say that's not a, I just think of that as village president spot.
Right, I forgot about that.
Okay. So Larry's gonna come on board with it, and we've got 10 right now. And there's nothing wrong with having 10. I know that larger boards can tend to, the discussion that tends to go on, there tends to be more side discussions, there tends to be more, stuff. So-
I think what happens is, I think we ought to, to be honest with you, I think we ought to reserve it for somebody who is, I'm pretty construction oriented, but I really do think that we need people that know a lot about utilities and construction, know the infrastructure and that kind of stuff is and look out for somebody in that.
Somebody that has some special skill set.
Special skill set, yeah.
That can really bring,
Well, this could be at the meet and greet thing that happens in a couple of months.
Right,
If Amy's
right.
still interested, bring these people in.
Well, the forms and everything you got about volunteerism and all
well,
that.
if
Just
Amy's
give it a little
interested in
bit of
helping to
time, she
volunteer
can-
with stuff, that's
Well,
something.
the steering committee is gonna have several volunteers on it, so that might be a place for her. I was
We
hoping
have
maybe to bring Randy, Martin back maybe, cause he would be obligated to the DDA, maybe he'd be better on the steering committee, or even Michelle, so
Well,
maybe that might be a place that she could
And-
serve, I don't know.
and my only look too is that who out of the public has actually been attending on a regular basis. And, you know, for those that are interested, I mean, again, if they're gonna show up,
You gotta show up.
yeah, you gotta show up. You know, I would say that's, granted, I didn't.
Yeah.
I got-
You were here, I think we called you.
We're really not
I didn't
going
show up
to
after.
Alright.
But I'm
So-
here now.
There's no motion on this, just pass it.
You know, 6 months or something, we'll get it again, who knows, you know?
Alright,
That's
I'm
perfectly
looking like
fine.
an asshole on TV.
There's no public to comment.
No public, okay, so guys, let's roll it back here.
Wrap it up.
Yep, so board size is finished, unless somebody else has more comments. And then move on to public comment, there's no public comment, does the board have any comments?
Nope.
Okay,
Good night.
chairman comments, I've only got, 1 or 2. I wanna publicly, congratulate Melissa for the win with the village council. I
Yay.
think that's, can be a very good thing.
What other changes were there?
Um,
Congratulations.
The only other change that's gonna affect us is Ken is no longer village president, come next, when they switch over.
Is he on the village board still then?
Nope,
No.
no,
He's off.
he's off,
totally,
he's
okay.
off totally, and Larry Eckert, is on. So that's congratulations to Larry as well, I'll miss working with Ken, he was very helpful in a lot of areas in getting this DDA thing up and going.
Yeah, very
Has the
insightful.
DDA
Yes.
sent anything out to congratulate these people or welcome them, let them know that we're, anything we can do, da.
I don't know about the DDA, but I've started to
Man,
draft a
Friday,
letter.
your place Friday night, if it's
It
not
should be a
closed.
letter from the DDA.
Up in the
Should we
spooky
draft a
suite.
letter from the
I
DDA?
would congratulating the people that have come in and maybe even a letter thanking the people that are leaving.
I can,
You know, just
we
a
can
short
do that.
note, just a 2-liner, 3-liner saying, you know, we're here, anything we can do.
That sounds good. I'll go ahead and just do that as long as nobody has any objections to
No,
that.
well, thank you for doing it.
Alright.
Well, it's not my turn to talk. I miss my turn to talk.
It is your turn, it is your turn.
If it's important, you
Go
may
for it.
speak.
I just would like to say that I think that it would really behoove us and the chamber and the local businesses to work together to figure out how to get on Pure Michigan for the summer.
Alright, let's
We
put that on the
really
agenda
need to
for
put
next-
together our advertising dollars and get that going now.
Okay, so I
Does
agree.
anybody know anything about it?
Yeah, I know a little about it, let's put it on the agenda.
I knew what I read on the website.
So you kind of
Bring
give
it
us,
forward.
bring everybody up to date
Let me
next
see if
month?
we can get
Yeah,
anybody
we'll work
to,
together and figure
from
it
them
out.
to come and talk to us maybe, from Pure Michigan, maybe they can get
Yeah.
somebody here to talk to us. I'd like to invite the chamber then, if we're gonna have that here, we should invite the chamber to be here,
Yeah,
and we'll put that for next month's agenda.
That's a good idea.
To talk about, figure it out, make a plan.
MZ and I will work to
Together.
figure out contacts within Pure Michigan. I got some that came to One Up Web and have been doing guest presentations for over 3 years now, the head of marketing, and Pure Michigan is #1 in all of the United States.
Wow.
So it'd be a shame for us to continue to not try to capture
Yeah,
that.
that's a wheel that's been invented, let's
Yep, and it's,
hold on to it and let it go down.
it's
the
very
track for us.
effective from what
I
I've
like
seen.
that idea.
It's hugely
Uh,
effective.
Cadillac takes big advantage of it. I
Car
just,
show,
I don't understand how it works necessarily and what the buy-in is and what you get for the buy-in. And that's something I'd like
We'll
to
find
explain to me a little bit more. Is there anybody else we should invite to that?
News channels, get the reporters here.
Invite to,
Do we need the village council to be here? That's not really their thing, this is more.
Well, when does
one-on-ones.
Larry get sworn in?
He can come as a,
you're saying invite people to a Pure Michigan presentation.
I'm saying we're gonna talk about it next month, and I'd like the chamber to be
Oh, I
involved
see,
in the
okay, right, right.
the
And
conversation.
I would just,
Well, I'll be
and
there.
if the,
I'd like the whole chamber, like if we could get everybody.
Well,
that'd be
yeah,
if they
nice.
haven't been, they hadn't been sworn in, Larry too.
I would invite the new
Well, Larry
council,
could come
if they
in,
wanna
but-
come, they
I
can
know,
come.
but just-
That'd
I
be great.
I don't know,
think
it
it'd
seems
be nice
like
to,
we ought to find out a little more about it ourselves before we invite the world in.
I can
You
tell
know,
you
I mean-
after sitting down and listening to
It's fine.
their presentation, and then hearing other like towns, you know, on there, like all the way from Podunk, Cedar, Michigan, and our sausages. I mean, they're seeing a lift in people, and I can easily bring those statistics next month.
Okay.
Alright, that sounds good. Any other comment? With that, I move that we adjourn.
I motion.
DJ.
Been seconded?
All in favor?
Aye.
can I turn off that camera?
A non